Hello and welcome to the 11th edition of the Clarke Park Show. It is Sunday the 19th of January. It's a glorious day today. It's colder today, that's why I'm wearing my woolly hat again, but a beautiful winter's day. Refreshing, I would describe it as. It's a refreshing kind of cold. The sun is shining brightly and there are so many people that are out at the park today. Let me just show you before I go into what I was going to talk about today. You can see behind me here, and these are even on the main paths. And if I just show you here and behind, it's really quite marshy and really quite wet in places. And why I wanted to show you that is tell you a little story about yesterday. Today really is going to be a quirky, offbeat day and stories. And yesterday, while I was having a conversation with my mother while still in the park, I started off on the beaten track on all the main concrete pathways for quite a long time. But then I was on a call to her, maybe not paying attention. I decided to cut across the grass area, maybe because it was beginning to, the sun was setting, getting dark. And anyway, as I was walking across, you do get lulled when the weather's like this, thinking, wow, lovely, but you forget how boggy, soggy, marshy and slippery the grasslands can be around here. And you even have to be careful with the main paths because there are many areas where it's still lots of puddles, quite muddy. I have to do some leaps over some puddles as well. And here's the funny story about yesterday. I came to a little stream that needed to be leapt across, and there were many baby deer either side of the middle walkway that I was taking. And of course I was on the phone to my mother at the time, a little bit distracted there. And as I did the leap, the baby deer were really startled, or the young deer, and they suddenly shot in different directions. That must have distracted me a little. And as I landed the other side, I completely slipped, and I mean really slipped up on my back. One of my trainers went flying in the air. I think that landed in the stream. Both feet ended up in the stream. I was flat in my back. And then I immediately got back up again, put the trainer back on, but it did mean the bottom of my jeans, socks, trainers, absolutely soaked. And so for the rest of that journey, it wasn't a pleasant walk at all. It was squelching all the way back, very cold, very wet. So the moral of that story is, from a few days back I was saying when I was in central London in the West End, how great it is to walk off the beaten track, not on the main streets. And the lesson I learned from the park, especially in winter with so much rain that we have here in London, well, in other parts of the country as well, not just here, but when you're in the park, it's best to stay on the beaten track. Or as they say, horses for courses. So I've got a few other quirky, funny little stories to share. Oh, actually, one on that theme, yes. So I told my mother about what had just happened to me, and she said, "Oh, you've just broken my dream." I said, "What was that?" She said, "Well, I dreamt that you fell over and you never got back up again." Yeah, great dream, hey. But I suppose I should be grateful that at least this time I did get back up again. And that's how, according to her, I broke her dream. So maybe I was always destined to have that slip and that fall while I was on the phone to her. I just didn't know it at the time. Oh, and I'll just show you, I should have also added my trainers that I was wearing yesterday. They're still drying out. They're in a bit of a sorry looking state, but actually it did give me that momentum to open a box, a gift that I received from my children for Christmas. And I haven't worn them here because I thought maybe get them dirty, but they're really comfortable. Let me just show you down here. So today, whoops, let's see if I can show you. Oh, that's it. So today I put one step forward, no, like that, and I'm wearing my new walking boots today. I don't know whether you can see those there, but they're Timberland walking boots, and very, very comfortable and warm, I have to say. So as long as I stay off the marshy grasslands, these are great boots for walking. Or, as that famous song by Nancy Sinatra goes, these boots were made for walking. Oh, and one of these days I'm gonna walk right there with you. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, another quirky story I want to share with you while on the subject of walking and talking on the mobile phone as I'm with you now. I was watching a programme last night, a comedy called Would I Lie to You? If you don't know, the concept is you have famous people from TV, some of them are comedians but not all. You have two captains who are comedians, David Mitchell, Lee Mack. It's hosted by Rob Brydon, and the concept is where they have to read from a card, and then the panel on the other side, they have to guess whether they're telling a truth or a lie. And last night it was Jennifer Saunders. I'm sure most of you must know of Jennifer Saunders. Very famous, she's been in many comedies, some films as well. She was the voice in Shrek. I think it was Shrek 2. She was the voice of the fairy godmother, and famous for a double act with Dawn French. But and absolutely fabulous, a sitcom in the 90s with Joanna Lumley. So anyway, she read out on the card that whenever she's walking and she sees people whose heads are right down in their mobile phone, they're not looking ahead, they're watching something or they're texting or doing whatever, what she says is that she deliberately bumps into them. And it was funny because they reenacted the scene of Lee Mack showing he's a person looking down his mobile phone, and she just bumps right into him and knocks him aside. And the funny thing about that was everybody cheered when she read that card item out. Normally the audience laughs, but this time they actually cheered and applauded, and you could tell the whole feeling was a huge connection and sympathy with that idea of deliberately bumping into people when they're looking down on their phone and not paying attention. And we all believed it was true. The panel believed it was true. Maybe we wanted it to be true, but can you believe it? It was a lie. Now there's one of those funny things where there was a lie that we so much wanted to be true, and maybe it gave us this idea that quite a funny thing is if you do see people like that, their heads just completely down on their phone, not paying attention, whether we're tempted to deliberately bump into them. And I have to be careful here because I must admit I'm guilty of doing that sometimes, and I've been doing it while I've been on my walks, and a number of times I have almost bumped into people where literally we've come to a stop, practically nose to nose with each other. So it's put it into my conscience that is a habit I need to get out of. And what they said is, well, what is the correct course of action? And it's obvious. You just stop and you step to the side. You step to one side, you carry on, finish your text message, and then you continue with your walk. So yeah, there's something there about etiquette for walking. It's a big subject about, it's a no-no for using your mobile phone while driving. Everybody says, well, it's against the law, although a lot of people still do it. Don't use your mobile phone while driving, and it's an offence. You get points on your licence, a fine, could get disqualified. There is no such law for cyclists, and you would think for them, and I've seen cyclists on their phones while cycling, it must be very dangerous for them. And for walkers, maybe not necessarily dangerous, except when crossing the road. And I've seen many people do that. They're looking at their phone as they cross the road, not paying attention. So yes, in that instance, definitely can be dangerous. And even worse, I've seen mothers walking their buggies with children so often. and they're pushing the buggy with one hand and they're looking down on their phone with the other, and sometimes that has even been when they're crossing the road, and so dangerous. And you can't legislate for everything, but maybe we just have to have more conscious awareness about some of our habits. One is, of course, about health and safety and about the danger, but there's another side of it in terms of protocol or etiquette or good manners and bad manners. And another little beef I have is in restaurants. When you go into a restaurant with people and they're just looking at their mobile phones all the time. And I've been in those situations many a time. Sometimes I'm guilty of it myself, not too much, but a little bit. Maybe it's because I'm thinking if other people are on their phones, then maybe I might as well go on mine as well. But it does seem crazy, doesn't it, that I thought the idea of going out to a restaurant it's a social occasion as well. It's meant to be social engagement, talking, catching up with people, having fun, a laugh, a joke, getting to hear the latest of what's going on in other people's lives. And what's happening so often is we're disconnecting from the real world, the real moment in time of being in the present, and too often we prefer to engage in solitude in the virtual world. And most people don't see it as solitude because they think, well, yes, but I'm engaging, I'm interacting, I'm chatting with my friend here or somebody here. So they feel that they're not in solitude. But when you're with somebody who's there physically present and you're not talking to them, not even acknowledging them, while you're engaging in what really is still the virtual world, even though it's somebody you know or a friend, we're really losing something there. And I remember a few years back in a restaurant, and it really struck me because I may have told you before, I'm quite observational, peripheral vision. I observe so much of what's going on around me, and it stuck in my mind this scene of a mother and a father sat one side of the table, 3 daughters, all teenagers, sat the other side of the table, and the 3 teenage girls just on their phone, watching videos or tapping away, but totally engrossed in their phone. And the mother and father were sat there just looking straight ahead, not on their phones, but they weren't talking with each other either. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is so strange. They're a family, 5 of them sat together at one table, but none of them were connected with each other. And I just wondered whether that was an extreme example there of disconnection, or whether that's happening in more and more occasions, more families, more social interaction. And that would be a real shame if we go that way. And as I keep touching upon many times, with so much in life, it's about balance, and it's about getting the right balance. And in these examples I've given you, I feel there are too many times we're not really getting the balance quite right. And are we heading in the right direction, the wrong direction, or maybe we need what's known as a correction? And I saw a debate a few months ago with Tim Berners-Lee. He's the inventor of the World Wide Web. He gave, I think it was the Wreath Lecture for the BBC, and he gave a fantastic lecture, very impressive. But he's created something that he says it can be a force for good, and it was intended as a force for good, but absolutely it can be a force for bad. And he was saying there are some bad things that are happening that will get worse if we don't address it. And what he called for was a time for, what was he called it, a course of correction. He feels that we have to take some corrections now, to take a step back. But if we carry on in this path unchecked, we're heading in the wrong place, wrong direction, and we see a lot more for bad than for good. Now, today, again, this is really more of a magazine type video, and yes, it is going to be a longer one, and that's because showing you again while I'm on one of my favourite views, so take on board in the background. Such a beautiful view in the background there, panoramic view overlooking the river there. And you'll also see behind it's a Sunday, very, very busy, and you'll also see many other people wearing woolly hats too. But what I wanted to finish on as a subject is, because this is related by the way, it's about mindset and how we reprogram our minds to do things differently. So as an example, I've got into a habit now of, with these talks and walks, of doing it as a magazine type style, where it's really whatever is on my mind on that day and whatever comes into my head to talk about. And yesterday I was saying maybe I should break it up and do separate videos until I get used to the editing and learn the editing skills of how to break it down and make them more like 2 or 3 minute videos on just one particular topic. But it's this thing about how we always have to make that adjustment. We get into a routine, we get into a habit, and how do we reprogram our minds to do things differently? Now, I've talked about a lot on previous editions about my change to veganism, not 100% veganism, probably mostly veganism, or if not mostly vegetarianism, and that did involve quite a shift, quite a lifestyle shift in my eating habits, getting used to it, buying different foods, going to different parts of the supermarket and making that adjustment. Also, when I was eating out in restaurants too, about perhaps a more limited choice on the menu and always looking out for the V or the VE signs for what to eat. And again, with my walking, and that's probably helped with the Fitbit that I have, that monitors and tracks me, and that also helps to program my mind of where I am, where I want to be with my fitness. But it was also a case of getting into a habit, yes, of doing these daily walks, how long or the minimum I should walk for, also about climbing steps, how many I would have as a target and as a minimum. And the other big shift I think I had is doing much more walking when I might have taken the bus or train or driven the car. That's happened with me again today. And so climbing the stairs, that's another big mind shift. Instead of automatically taking the lift, more often than not I will take the stairways, even if it means climbing many flights, maybe 5 or 6 flights. I will do that. If I'm on the escalator, I won't just stand there, I will actually walk up the escalator, and at quite a pace as well. Again, it's because I've shifted my mind into doing that. And so I wanted to leave that thought out there with you about what is it you're changing, have changed or looking to change, and how have you reprogrammed and adjusted your mindset to live a different way of life or do different things, get into different habits and make that change of direction or improvement in your life in some way. So I'm going to leave you with that thought, and it's still such a beautiful day, beautiful afternoon. I love it when it's like this, and I wish you a great day and speak to you again soon. Thank you, and toodaloo.